Hello, my stamping friends. This is Renee Novak at blessedbycards.com. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in the United States, and I'm coming to you from St. Louis, Missouri. Today, I'm going to share with you 3 cards that I created using some of the dies from the Gallery of Blooms. So this, we're going to use the big rectangle die. And we're going to use these 3 little dies here. So this is a standalone die that you can cut out of designer series paper. And these 2 coordinate with the flowers from the bundle. So we're going to use both of those with the dies, the rectangle and this extra one. So let's get started. Our first card that I created, I took the frames from that die, and that's a large frame, and what happens is when you cut it you get 2 pieces of each. So you're going to need to cut an early espresso, and when you do that you're going to get all 3 of these pieces. You're going to get a large frame, a smaller frame, and you're going to get the center rectangle piece on each cut. So you're going to need to use that to cut one from early espresso and then one from designer series paper. Now I chose the Nature Walk designer series paper, and that's the large one, and this is the smaller frame, and then this is the centerpiece. So we're going to use everything that you see here except this little one today. We're not going to use this one, but you can save it for another project. So let's get started with, I'll share with you what I did. So the first one, I only used the small frame from the early espresso and the small frame from the designer series paper on my first card. Excuse me. And so I created that, and on the the card is an early espresso card, and I have a pumpkin pie card base that I put down, and I ran that through the birchwood embossing folder first, and then I just arranged these on top, and I did kind of put them down, and then I used just a little teeny tiny piece of Scotch tape to keep them in place. And then once I did that, then I stamped and cut out my dies, and I did the larger tall flowers in crumb cake and early espresso, and I did that smaller one in pumpkin, or not pumpkin pie, but pecan pie. For my greeting, I just stamped it in early espresso, and I popped it up on top of all the frames with some Stampin' Dimensionals. And then, of course, on the inside, you can put a piece of white and decorate as desired. And that is our first card. So our second card that I created, I actually went back and used the large early espresso, the large one from the designer series paper, and then this little one. And so what I did for this one is I cut, because I wanted this frame to be inside, I cut it. It doesn't really fit because obviously it's the exact same size. So I cut it apart, and then I just positioned it to be down here. So I cut each one of these pieces apart, and then I layered them each time. So that one was the little part that comes there, and then I cut the other one and positioned it just a smidge inside so it went along. And then I did the same thing for the bottom one. All these were cut apart. I just cut them on the diagonal. I'm not going to do this one now because I have a different project I'm going to use with this, but you cut them on the diagonal and then arrange them inside of this frame. And that's how you get those little teeny tiny pieces around there. And then because this is a crumb cake card base, then you have an automatic layer of crumb cake in there as your card. And then I took this piece and I just layered it on a piece of early espresso. All the supplies and all the measurements for everything that I'm doing is on my blog at blessedbycards.com. You can download a free project sheet, and it has all the supplies, the measurements, and pictures of everything I'm doing. So that will make more sense when you see the measurements. But it's just a tiny little border around this, and then I put that on the card, and then that automatically made a crumb cake card base and a layer in there. And then I just took another little strip of crumb cake and added my greeting. And the greeting is from Friendly Foliage. And then those are those two little standalone flowers that I was telling you about. This is just a die that cuts those out. I cut two of those with early espresso, and then I added a cute little crumb cake twine bow right on the edge. And that is our second card. And then our last card, I used the brand new Lazy Daisy, coming soon, Lazy Daisy embossing folder, and that has some beautiful, hopefully you can see that, some beautiful daisies that you can emboss your project with. So I started with a Misty Moonlight card base, and I took another piece of Misty Moonlight, and that is what I ran through the embossing folder. And then I cut that on the diagonal, and then I put one half on my white sheet, and I saved the other half for another project. And then I took those same flowers, and instead of embossing or stamping them and cropping them with the neutral colors, I cropped them with the Misty Moonlight. So I stamped the flowers first in Misty Moonlight, and then cropped them with those same dies from the first project. So that is the first project with the neutral colors. And then I just stamp the thank you from with you in mind. And of course you can add a basic white card to the inside and decorate as desired. So that is my third and final card for this weekly Wednesday. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Thanks so much for joining me. Be sure to hop on over to my blog, blessedbycards.com, and download your free project sheet. And until next time, be blessed.